Hi, beautiful souls. Today I am here to share with you about earth keeping, grid workers, and what that means to me. So I love this topic so much because a few years ago I realized that I was a grid worker, and when I realized that, there were so many things that clicked into place. It was like, oh yeah, that actually helps my life make sense. So from a very young age, I loved to travel. I was always drawn to certain places. I grew up in Chicago or outside of Chicago, and so I didn't know the ocean. That wasn't somewhere that I got to live, but I actually got to go to Myrtle Beach starting, I think my mom might have been pregnant with me the first time that I got to go. But then I got to go starting when I was a small child. And when I was 8, I actually left the country for the first time. I got to go to Germany. And I'm German. My grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side are both German. And my grandma actually escaped from war-torn Germany when she was a child. My family escaped from East Germany. So I didn't really know all of that. And even if I had known that, I probably couldn't have fully understood it more than having had read The Diary of Anne Frank at that time and just a little bit of history and things that you pick up. But I didn't fully understand that history as a kid. And so it was this really beautiful experience. I had family, some cousins and my aunt and uncle that were living there, and my grandparents were going to visit my cousins and my aunt and uncle, and so they invited me to go with them. And it was such a magical experience for me, getting to go in the castles and getting to meet family and getting to fly on a plane that had a screen in the back seat and getting to eat food on the plane. There were so many things that made it so magical, and we really packed in a lot. So my family loves history, so anywhere that we go, there's probably some sort of rich history, and I've just always learned about it, going to museums or going on tours or reading about it, or just having really brilliant members of my family who would orate the history of these places or have tour guides that would do that. And so it started when I was so young, and we would go camping and spend time outside, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but my parents always did a really good job of giving us these opportunities. And so I did get to travel a little bit, even if it was low budget. And so as I got older, this internal desire was growing, and I was sort of coming up with my own ideas of where I wanted to travel to. And I've always had that. There are certain places that I'm just oh, I have to go there. And once I go, I'm I'll be back here. And so it's just been a beautiful game. It feels like a game for my soul to get these opportunities to travel. And I don't say that lightly, because I know what a privilege it is to have had opportunities to travel since I was a young child. And that's also formulated this worldview for me, which is so innate to traveling. So I'm posting this series on my maddie.b.energy page, but my original page, well, it didn't start out as Maddie B Travels, but my personal page is Maddie B Travels, which started out as Maddie M. Bren 28, I think, way back in college when Instagram was just starting. Come a long way. But so traveling has just been this gift for me, just this thing that's inspired me and driven me and motivated me. Unlike anything else, it's really the thing that I feel really passionate about and I like to do. And then when I started becoming more and more spiritual, because I grew up raised Catholic, and there were parts of Catholicism that resonated with me, and there were a lot of parts that didn't resonate with me, and I had a lot of questions, and I didn't like some of the rules, and the ways things sort of landed didn't feel right. But I loved that I got to sing, and I loved the connection to the divine, and I loved learning about Jesus and angels and the disciples and the stories, because there's so much richness in the stories. Even if I didn't like how things were playing out in current day, for reasons that I couldn't even describe at the time, I just felt that things were wrong. But so I'd always had this curiosity around religion, around spirit, around God, around nature. And I was blessed with learning about Native Americans when I was a young kid too. So that helped form my perception of the world and the spirit world in the way that we teach science and we understand animals and living in harmony and so many things, so many layers to this. all of that to say, I started being intensely drawn to certain places. And one of those places was Japan. And it actually worked out that I got to go there. I got to travel to Japan a couple times with the company that I used to work with, and also a personal trip. I have an uncle, my Uncle Shinji, who lives in Japan. Hi, Uncle Shinji. And so I got to go with my cousin Samantha, my brother Joe, and we got to just have the most unbelievable experience. And in that experience, the first time I went to Japan, I was like, oh, this is my place. These are my people. Like, there's something here that I don't even understand, but I love it. And then on that third trip there, it was like all of these things were clicking into place, because this time I wasn't there for work. This time I was there for pleasure, and we were like doing the tourist thing and going to some of the things that had been on this bucket list that I'd been building for years. And in that process, and especially dropping into the richness of the spiritual culture of Japan, I started actually understanding myself as a soul. And I was like, I've definitely been here. Like, when I said these are my people, like, I'm like, I don't even know the fullness of what that means. And so being there, I just started having these really beautiful moments and experiences where I was connecting so deeply. And I think that's part of what's drawn me so much to Reiki, is that there's a link in my soul and my soul's lineage that comes through Japan, and that connection to energy healing and just so many things. And that's kind of what this gets to, is that there's sort of an inexplicable, intangible quality that we feel, this resonance that we feel. And to the conscious mind, it might not make any sense. Like, I'm a white person, and like, yes, I have a Japanese uncle, but he's not a blood uncle. Like, he was married into my family. And yet there's like a part of me that's so confident could just say, I have at least one past life in Japan. And that's so true for me. So all this to say, I have a really cool history and this unraveling of what was happening, and this invitation to go to certain places and for things to just be beautifully taken care of, for me to go there and have a really beautiful experience. Like, I got to spend 6 months out of the country last year, 3 months in Greece and 3 months in Ireland. It was unreal, you guys. And so what I want to say about earthkeeping and grid workers, because I'm at 744, is that you have connections to other places. Your soul is contracted to go to certain places, and you'll know this if this is resonating for you. And this may not resonate for you, but if it does, you know what I mean, is that you feel like you have to go somewhere. And the reason you have to go there is because you are basically this amazing supercomputer, and this Earth is an incredible supercomputer. And so each of us are going, and we're plugging ourselves into certain places. And that happens when we do things like this, sit outside especially, but also when we go to some of these places that churches built over, which have been like sacred indigenous sites and religious places of celebration and offering for all of humanity's time, y'all. There are like really, really sacred places on Earth. And so when you take your supercomputer there, you could go plug it in, like you're going to plug in your little phone, and then the system is updating. So that place is updating, and the whole Earth grid is updating, because you are there, because you are bringing your essence, your frequency, this unique tone that only you are bringing it to that place, and you're plugging it in. And when you plug it in, that place also says, here, babe, I've got some codes for you. And so whether it's from a past, present, parallel lifetime, whether it's from the Earth itself, whether it's codes in the water, whether it's codes in the food or in the community or codes in the culture, whatever it is, you are then receiving it. And so then your computer is then holding these codes. So you have this beautiful exchange. You're like locking it in. It's like a time capsule that says, I was here at this time and I did this thing. Thank you. And then you go home and you bring those codes back to where you go. So now you're embodying these codes. So now you're traveling with the codes of Japan. Even if you never say, I went to Japan, you are handing out codes of Japan all the time. Whatever that gift of the culture, of the language, of the food, of the water, of the beautiful nature you got to experience, whatever that is, then you are coding it. So you're sharing it all the time. It's amazing. I could talk about so much more, and I think I will definitely continue talking about grid workers, because it's something that's so powerful and so cool. And if you feel like you're a grid worker and you've never heard about this before, then definitely reach out to me, because man, we could talk about some stuff. And if you are a grid worker and you know that and you need support, I can help you because I have codes that are going to just align you straight to where you're headed next, babe. So if you want to know where that is, if you know where that is and you're just needing some things filled in, then you hit me up because I want to help you get to where you need to go, because there are places that need your codes and there are codes that you're supposed to be bringing around the world, and I want to help make sure that you're making that happen. I love you so much. We're at 10:24, so I'm going to sign off for today. Mwah! I love you so much. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.